What is going on, my broskies? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So in today's video, we're actually going to be doing a showcase on a character that just arrived on the Japanese side of One Piece Treasure Cruise, which is 6+ version 2 Lucci. Now, it's actually kind of crazy because this came out during like late November, early December last year on Global, so it's been 12 months it's taken for it to arrive on JP, and by this time it's been so goddamn long that this character honestly is severely outdated. Honestly, this character I struggled to beat some content with this character. This guy, honestly, he's not that good in my personal opinion, and we'll get to more reasons why throughout this video. But before we get into that, I want to talk about his abilities quite briefly. So of course, he is a quick shooter powerhouse character. His Captain ability will reduce your special charge time by 1 turn at the start of the quest. That's quite big. We'll talk about that later as well. He'll also boost shooter character's attack by 3.25 as your base boost, and then every time you hit a perfect, you get a 1.05 times multiplier added or multiplied into your 3.25 times. So after all perfects, your last character will be hitting for 4.148. It's a pretty strong captain ability overall in terms of damage output. However, there is a little bit at the end of this captain ability which says you get 0 recovery. That's honestly, in this day and age, quite a big drawback. Honestly, like, characters like this back in the day were kind of okay. You didn't really have to rely on, picking up recovery orbs to make sure you could survive the next hit. But honestly, this in 2019, moving into 2020, it's just not acceptable anymore. 0 recovery captains are awful. They just are. It's just the way it is. Now, his special ability will drastically reduce all enemies' defense for 1 turn. I believe it is an 80% defense cut. Honestly, this should have been 100% defense, and there's a specific piece of content where that's actually going to be quite important. Also does massive quick damage to 1 enemy. Again, I'm not a really big fan of the fact that his previous 6-star version was AoE damage, and then they changed it to single target damage. Not a big fan of that. He also reduces paralysis by 4 turns, which is actually pretty good. However, throughout this video, I mainly utilize the Colosseum NL as a sub, because you really want to try and have this special ability for the final boss fight, as he does give your shooter characters 2 times color affinity for 1 turn as well. So overall, his kit is okay, but for this day and age, it's just severely outdated, as I just keep saying, because it's just really not that good. He can completely evade paralysis as a sub. He also gives powerhouse characters some attack, and recently on JP they actually added a support ability to him, which will support any shooter character, and I believe it's when you reach the final stage, or it's whenever the supported character activates the special. I believe it's the final boss fight. You get a 1.5 times color affinity to shooters, which is pretty good. But overall, that's the quick rundown of the brand newly released on JP 6+ V2 Lucci. But let's go ahead and move on to the showcase. Alright, so let's go ahead and break down this character, Rob Lucci V2, with his Super Evolution. Now, man, I've got to say this straight up front. Shooters absolutely freaking suck on One Piece Treasure Cruise. Shooters are so bad. They need some straight up buffs. Like, I'm talking big buffs. Currently, as it stands, I mean, this is on Global. I haven't really played JP, like, legitimately for years, so I don't remember off the top of my head, like, what type of shooter characters at this current point in time they have. I know that there's the Halloween Ace, who is a very good captain, because not only is he a shooter captain, he's also a fighter captain, so that's kind of nice that, on JP they have a character like that. But specifically talking about shooters, man, they suck. There's no beating around the bush on that one. They are just not a very good class, and the main reason for that is because they don't really have that many characters that can provide utility on top of providing damage boosts. Now, specifically talking about Rob Lucci, the main problem that I found using him as a captain is that getting matching orbs was always going to be an issue. He grants no beneficial orbs as a captain. There are no ships that work with Rob Lucci being a shooter captain that give you more beneficial slots. And also another thing is the fact that in order to get beneficial slots, you would have to use characters with sailor abilities or other specials to grant you those beneficial orbs. Whereas you see nowadays, you'll see so many of the powerful legends, they can get matching orbs so easily. I mean, you look at characters like Snake Man, his special and his captain ability have beneficial slots. V2 Katakuri, beneficial slots. White and Marco have a special to give you beneficial slots. Sabo and Koala, they have a way to change negative and also block slots into matching, and also their switch effect grants them a matching slot as well. So that's what I'm talking about. There's so many different ways to get beneficial slots with some of the more powerful legends in the game, and this is where Rob Lucci really falls off. Even talking about Halloween Ace that's available on JP right now, he, with his captain ability, makes Sign int beneficial for shooters. Now, it's not much, but it's better than nothing. And that's why I always say that characters such as Zephyr and also characters such as Dex Sabo is a much better captain as well, because he can grant beneficial slots, or he gives you a higher chance of landing on beneficial slots. Also, Legend Capone, I think, is probably the best shooter captain that we have access to on Global. I do use him as a friend captain for one of these teams, because otherwise it wouldn't work. I mean, you could probably run Capone as a sub for the team. That would also work as well, but Capone is just a much better captain in every way, shape, and form, just because of the constant 3.7, the beneficial slots, the fact that you get the health boost and all that kind of thing. So Rob Lucci just has a lot of issues just compared to some of the other shooter captains that we have access to currently right now as it stands on One Piece Treasure Cruise Global. And another thing that I mentioned in the beginning of this video was the fact that with his captain ability, he does make your recovery 0. So that means that in these Colosseums, when you're doing your stalling to try and get your cooldowns, every time you take damage, you can't even eat a recovery orb to get your health back. And I found that so troubling. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I just found it to be quite annoying just running through content with him. But despite all of this, there are definitely positives with Rob Lucci. I love the fact that he is a very fast captain to run. The additional cooldown you get at the start of the run with his captain ability, on top of sockets, on top of the Kizaru ship, which adds up to 6 cooldown, I believe. So with the ship cooldown and the 2 captains. Yeah, so 6 additional cooldown, which is very fast. I mean, shooters are always being one of the faster teams just because you get access to the Kizaru ship, which is -2 cooldown. Always very, very nice to have. That Kizaru ship is actually, like, low-key, one of the best ships in the game because of that cooldown, as we said, but also it gives an HP cut. I believe it's a 7% HP cut to the enemy. Don't sleep on that. That's actually pretty useful. I do use it a couple of times in this particular video. It's really, really nice ship effect to have. Rob Lucci also has a really good captain attack multiplier, so that's always really nice. You know, 3.25 and stacks all the way up to 4.148, I think it was, what we talked about earlier. So that's a really good multiplier. It's just the fact that everything that surrounds the cooldown and the multiplier is just kind of meh, in my personal opinion. And of course, because this character has come out only just now on JP, I don't think many people are going to be using him as a captain. I mean, for the next treasure map, he's likely going to be a higher point booster, so I could see people using him for the next treasure map, but outside of that, I don't know where people will actually find time or a place to really use this character, considering some of the other characters that we have access to. I mean, you know, you can definitely hybrid him up with another friend captain, as you guys are seeing in this example here with Capone. Capone's really nice. For this specific piece of content, which is why I needed Capone, is because on the final boss fight of Colosseum Inu, he blows away one of your units in the bottom row, or in the bottom half of your team for 5 turns. So having the Big Father effect, we are able to dodge that, so that's very nice to have. But unfortunately, as it stands right now, as I said, I do think shooters are the worst class in the game. It's just they need better subs, and that's one of the main things that really holds back the shooter class just in general, is yes, there are some reasonably good characters that are subs for shooter classes. Colosseum NL, Rare Recruit Chiffon. There are a lot of decent units, but there just aren't that many units that can provide beneficial slots on top of many other different things, you know, or it be utility and an attack boost, or an orb boost and, you know, orb manipulation. They just need characters that do lots of different things, like some of the other characters that are top tier in this game. They just do so many different things that benefit your team in lots of different ways, and that's really one of the things that shooters really would need, because we see the release of Halloween Ace, and he is really good, honestly. He is one of the best legends in the entire game, but most of the time you're probably going to opt to run predominantly fighters on his team compared to shooters, because shooters are just terrible. Shooters are horrendous. I would personally love to see a brand new batch come out, or like even just dedicate an entire month to the shooter class, bring out a new Sugo Fest batch, all rare recruits and a legend dedicated to buffing the shooter class, bring out a new Colosseum, a new raid boss, do a whole Kizuna dedicated to a shooter character that just helps out the class a lot. I know that there was a recent release of a treasure map unit, I think it was treasure map Nami, and I believe she's also a color affinity booster for the shooter class, so I don't really understand why they decided to release Lucci now on the JP side of things. I feel like it was definitely too late to release this character. And I mean, as I said, we've had this for 12 months on Global. I think it is very weird that they've only just decided to release it now. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I think they forgot about him. I honestly think that Bandai forgot that this was a character, and they're like, oh damn, we need to release him on JP. Whip him up with this release and boom, let him go. So odd, man. Speaking more about, why the shooter class is so annoying, even on this example here, we're utilizing Legend Corazon as a sub to use his special ability on stage 5 against Kuma, where it can remove attack down and also chain lock, as well as giving us a heal. And I believe if you use a healing mechanic on Colosseum Kuma, he cuts your health in half. But this is where obviously the barrier penetration is such an important thing for shooters. I mean, barrier penetration in general is a give and take type of thing, where yes, it is awesome that you're able to bypass barriers, and you can very much abuse that as we do in this team here. But again, that can also cause issues for some of your other characters down the line, especially if you want to break a barrier and then go through it and deal damage to them. Because if some of your characters might not be able to get barrier penetration, some of them are. It's really annoying. However, one of the cool things here is that Rob Lucci does not have barrier penetration, because when his limit break came out, when he was a regular 6-star form, he was centric towards powerhouse, so they didn't give him barrier penetration. That's actually kind of nice, the fact that he doesn't have that. It means that you can still break barriers with double Rob Lucci, and then you can have another character that potentially doesn't have it, or another character that potentially isn't active with barrier penetration, and then you can, finish off with some of your other characters, as we do with this particular example. And this team is just so satisfying to defeat Kuma with. It's so good. And then the last clip you guys are going to see is the Doflamingo Forest. And again, we're just going to be utilizing more shooter-based characters. We do have Legend Zephyr as a sub for this team, which is a really nice sub, because he has a Sailor ability that makes recovery in 10 and beneficial for your shooter characters. So that's a really nice way to get more beneficial slots, is having those Sailor abilities that help you out. Even another character off the top of my head that would help you out getting more beneficial slots would be a character like V2 Boa, who makes all type orbs beneficial for 2 turns for your shooter characters. Unfortunately, when V2 Boa gets her 6+, she actually becomes a free spirit centric character, moving away from shooters, and she doesn't even she's not even classed as a shooter anymore. I think she's a free spirit fighter after her super evolution, so that's a little bit of a downfall for her, unfortunately. But it's nice either way. V2 Boa is a pretty decent 6+, and she should be coming sometime in December, so I'm really looking forward to that. And another character you guys are seeing on this team that we did use against the Colosseum Riser earlier on is Colosseum Kid. That unit is amazing. I think everyone knows how good Colosseum Kid is. I mean, with the cooldown reduction, which only, further shows, how fast the shooter class can really be. Remember, with the Kizaru ship, the sockets, the double Lucci, and you also have Colosseum Kid, like, you're flying through content. And being able to do, like, that much end-of-turn damage, especially against quick enemies, is absolutely ridiculous. So in summary, I'm not the biggest fan of this V2 Rob Lucci. Even on his initial release, he still really wasn't that good. I mean, even back then, shooters were kind of meh, and as it stands right now, they are also kind of meh. And it's unfortunate, because shooter class are definitely one of my favorite in the game, especially going all the way back to the Strongwood Ace days. Shout out to Strongwood Ace being the MVP back in the day. But unfortunately, the shooters, they are far from the best, and I just sincerely hope that they get a major buff in the future, as we've already talked about in this video. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, just breaking down Rob Lucci. Mainly just wanted to make this video because of the release on JP, and I just thought it would be a really good fun. And it was fun, utilizing a character that I don't really use too much. So there we go, that's the full rundown of V2 Lucci 6+. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.